Now, there is only one story dominating the front pages this morning as the man once dubbed Queen Elizabeth's favourite son begins his first full day as Andrew, Mountbatten Windsor, after being stripped of his prince title. The Sun dubs him the Andrew, formerly known as Prince. The Daily Telegraph says, "A prince no more." And the Mirror simply says, "Meet Mr Windsor, finally." The move follows weeks of intense scrutiny over his links to convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. Joining us now from Devon is royal expert Jennie Bond. Good morning, Jennie. Thank you very much for joining us. It's very early days, we know that, but what does this now mean for Andrew?
It means that he is no longer royal. His birthright of being called a prince has been taken away from him. The process has begun. And this is very much the king who is directing affairs here. He's been considering this for some time, and it's complicated. And he has decided that firm action had to be taken. And the statement from Buckingham Palace last night was quite ruthless. It was clear, it was concise, it was sharp. And it said that now the process has begun to strip Andrew of all his titles. We already knew that he was relinquishing his dukedom. But as you see there, I think those words are quite compelling. These censures are deemed necessary, notwithstanding the fact that he continues to deny the allegations against him. And I think that's a very telling phrase indeed. I think the palace knows that there may be more to come. Certainly the Epstein papers are being trawled over in the United States, and there may be more to come. And they also, in the final paragraph, made it absolutely clear that the focus of the king and the queen, and this comes from both of them, the focus for them is on the victims and the survivors of the sexual abuse from the Epstein scandal.
Well, Jennie, Virginia Giuffre's family spoke very emotionally on Newsnight last night. Let's take a look at what they had to say. Incredible moment, Jennie. What did you make of that?
I thought that phrase, a normal American girl has brought down a British prince, is a very fine epitaph, actually, for Virginia Giuffre, who so sadly took her own life back in April. The family want more. They don't think this is enough. They went on to say they want to see Andrew behind bars. There will be debate about that, but we have to remember not only has he denied all the accusations against him vigorously and consistently, but he hasn't been charged with anything. But this may not be the end of the story for Andrew Mountbatten Windsor.
And Jennie, we saw King Charles being heckled by the crowds earlier on this week. How do you think the future of the monarchy sits now with the general public? Is this enough?
I think that that hit home, that heckling. It has to be said it was by a lone man, and he was a member of the anti-monarchy group Republic. But nevertheless, his words, how long did you know about Andrew and Epstein and questions like that, they were picked up on microphone, and they are disrupting these interruptions like that, disrupting the work of the royal family. Not only Charles's visit to Lichfield, as was then, but it very nearly overshadowed the Vatican visit. And I think the timing of this actually has also something to do with the fact that William is about to set off for Brazil. He's got a very important meeting there, the COP30, the climate change conference, followed by his Earthshot Prize. And I do not think he could stomach the idea of all his work in that direction being hijacked once again by Andrew headlines.
And of course, Jen, lots of discussion now about what does this mean for Andrew's ex-wife, Sarah, and indeed his daughters, the princesses, Beatrice and Eugenie. What happens? What does their future look like?
Well, I used the word ruthless before, and I think that is true of Sarah's destiny as well. I mean, she's hardly mentioned. In fact, she isn't mentioned in the statement, but sources have indicated that she will be left to fend for herself. Well, I mean, fair enough. She's a grown-up woman. She obviously has funds. She sold a property in Belgravia not that long ago for a reported £4 million. And she's got two daughters who are loyal to her and are wealthy in their own right. Beatrice and Eugenie are still members of the royal family and loved members of the royal family. The king has great affection for them, and they will continue to be princesses because of their birthright, given their granddaughters of a monarch. So they will continue, but you have to feel for them, don't you? They must, their loyalties must be so divided. You know, Christmas, do they go to Sandringham? They'll be invited with the wider royal family, or do they go with their parents, who it would, I think I'm hearing, and I'm surprised at this, are going to go their separate ways and not going to continue as bestest friends living together forever in a happy divorced state. Sarah will, I think, find her own place.
Jennie, thank you very much indeed, as always, for joining us this morning. Thank you. We're going to head now to Royal Editor Russell Myers. Does it feel like the royals have now caught up with the general public mood?
Well, it seems so, doesn't it, Sis? I mean, we've not only had more than a couple of weeks of very, very uncomfortable headlines for the royal family, but we've had the royal family's financial position discussed in Parliament, the Prime Minister saying that he would get behind a campaign to open up the books, as it were, and delve into the royal family's agreements with certain residences. And the public sway of opinion has really landed against Prince Andrew in this situation. And I think what has actually happened over the last few weeks is this cascade of information, not only because of Virginia Giuffre's posthumous memoir, but also these documents are being released to the US Congress in the United States. And it really did feel like the pressure was caving in on Prince Andrew. He was unwilling to step aside, and the king has taken this very, very drastic action.
Well, as Jennie Bond suggested there as well, Russell, that there might still be more to come. What do you make of that?
Well, I think that's probably right. You look at what's going on in the United States, certainly the Metropolitan Police has got an active investigation at the moment. And my understanding is that the king asked Prince Andrew for some guarantees about what was to come next, and he couldn't give any. And that tells you an awful lot about this situation, that Prince Andrew has been led the royal family down a very, very dark path, unfortunately. And so the king has had no option but to take this action. And many people will wonder why this action wasn't taken many years ago.
Yeah. Russell, you are in Paris there on your way to Brazil, I believe, following Prince William's movements, of course, as part of the Earthshot Prize. He launched it back in 2020. It's something he's very passionate about. He doesn't want anything overshadowing that, but I'm sure there will be, unfortunately, a bit of a hangover of all of this for the weeks and months to come.
Well, there will be. I mean, just weeks and months. I think that this unfortunate stain will, be a mark on the royal family for many, many years to come. And Prince William, he's been doing some fantastic work with Earthshot. It's his 5th year. We're going to Rio this year after being in Boston and Singapore, Cape Town. It's a real global project, and people are getting behind it. However, whilst this issue with Prince Andrew was being discussed, we weren't talking about the business of the royal family. What were they doing? The king was in the Vatican last week. They thought they were going to draw a line under this Prince Andrew situation, and it did not happen. So Prince William will certainly be in contact with the king, as he has been, to make these decisions, and he will be hoping that we at least move on for the time being. But in an overall picture, I think that this is a very, very unfortunate episode for the royal family. Very
much so. Russell, thank you very much indeed. Undoubtedly, we'll catch up with you next week. Safe travels. Thank you. Prince Andrew is still in the headlines this morning. Our royal editor, Russell Myers, is here now. Hello, good morning, you. The king is feeling the pressure to squash everything for William's sake. Is that what we are being led to believe at this point?
Well, indeed. Good morning, Christine. Well, this is a scandal that certainly is not going away. And they say, what's the phrase? A week is a long time in politics. This has been going on for over 2 weeks now, this sort of new sphere of Prince Andrew allegations. And I think it's become such a distraction for the royal family. We had the king in the Vatican last week, and there was lots of attempts to try and sort out this business of Prince Andrew moving out of Royal Lodge. And now we have Prince William going to Brazil next week for his Earthshot Prize Awards. It's the 5th instalment of his awards, which have been going round the world, trying to find the best inventions and the best ideas to try and save the planet from climate change or other environmental factors that are going on. And of course, this is such a distraction. Prince William doesn't want to be talking about this. Of course, he's been part of those negotiations to try and get his uncle to get out of Royal Lodge, get out of the headlines, and to stop distracting from the work that the royal family are doing. However, it doesn't seem to be going away anytime soon. And I think whilst this is all being talked about, whilst it's still on the front pages, you know, this is something that the royal family do not want to have a distraction from all the great work that they are doing.
Yeah, exactly that. Is it true, Russell, though, Prince William is reportedly has given Prince Andrew an ultimatum involving his daughters?
Well, let's clear some things up here, because this is, you know, once there's you know, the rumour mill is out of control, once the headlines are being written and there's lots of people getting involved, then invariably there will be stories that talked about all members of the royal family. However, Emily Maitlis on one of her podcasts, the journalist who did that infamous BBC Newsnight interview, she said that she understood that Prince William had been putting pressure on Princesses Eugenie and Beatrice to try and get Andrew out of Royal Lodge, and that he had threatened them with taking their titles away. How I understand, and Kensington Palace have said that no meeting took place of any sort between William and the girls, and certainly he wouldn't have the powers to do it anyway. That is not his constitutional role. He wouldn't be threatening them with anything to do with their father. Of course, he's invested in Prince Andrew getting out of Royal Lodge, stop making all the headlines himself. But in terms of Prince William, it's very much an advisory role. You know, the King has tried to try and settle this business, and certainly the girls would not be drawn into it. So a bit of unfortunate levelling at Red Eugenie and Princess Beatrice as well, I think.
Yeah. And now this might be down the list of priorities, but Andrew has also had to give something else up.
Well, he has, and certainly. Well, you say this, but you know, his finances are really in the spotlight at the moment. You know, where is he going to go? Does he have the means to pay for different residences? That's part of the argument for him to leave Royal Lodge. It's become a talking point in the Houses of Parliament, away from the palaces as well. But he's had to give up 2 of his personalised registration numbers. He had 2. He had AYDO3 DOY and A2 DOY, and these were put on some of his Bentleys and his Range Rovers. You know, whilst his finances are being discussed, he's had time to buy himself a new £115,000 Range Rover. So I'm sure that the King and other people who are looking at this closely will be very interested to know how he could afford such a lovely car when his living arrangements are being discussed so widely.
Oh goodness, and it's all about optics, isn't it? So as you say, these conversations must be constantly going on behind closed doors. So Sarah Ferguson also making a lot of headlines the past couple of days, Russell, and facing more backlash in many respects.
Well, very much so. You know, part of this relinquishing of titles and Andrew stepping away from his Knight of the Garter title as his Duke of York title was being widely discussed in the palaces and by the public as well. You know, the public are absolutely involved in this, because the level of revulsion about all of these allegations, which we must say that the former Duke of York has said that he vehemently denies all of these allegations, but they affected Sarah Ferguson as well, because she's been made to step back from her Duchess of York title. And while their finances are being widely discussed, it's emerged that Sarah bought a £4.2 million house in Belgravia, and she's since sold that. It did come at a £400,000 loss, but you know, how has she got the sort of financial power to buy that sort of place? Is she demanding somewhere in the royal estate as well, because she does live with Andrew at Royal Lodge at the time? So, you know, whilst this all is sort of this moving of chess pieces of royal residences, I think that the King and the Crown Estate who manage Royal Lodge will be very, very interested to see why she sold that property, and if she's got the means to buy somewhere on her own now.
Yeah, exactly that, Russell. It's all very tricky, and they're just kind of wanting to get on with their engagements, carrying on as normal, getting the spotlight back onto those issues. So, yeah, the sooner it's sort of tidied up, the better. But what a mess for them all. Thank you very much, Russell, as always. We'll catch up soon. Thank you. King Charles is on the front pages this morning after being heckled over his brother Andrew yesterday. It comes as it's reported that Prince Andrew is set to move into Frogmore Cottage following the ongoing controversy. Here is what happened yesterday.
How long have you known about Andrew and Epstein? Have you asked the police to cover up for Andrew's crime? What do you think? Should the MPs be allowed to debate the lawyers in the House of Commons?
Well, broadcaster Nicola Thorpe joins us now alongside Joe. Good morning, ladies. It's quite awkward to watch it, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so, and rightly so. And I think that we do deserve to know how long he has known about Andrew and Epstein and the issues surrounding that. Obviously, a lot of the papers today covering the story of where could Andrew go to next after it was revealed that he hasn't actually been paying rent on Royal Lodge. He's living there with his ex-wife, Sarah Ferguson, who have voluntarily given up their titles. So big questions now over where Andrew could end up. That's Royal Lodge, as you saw on screen there. Just to bring this story back to the core issue here of Epstein and his victims. Prince Andrew hosted Epstein, Harvey Weinstein and Ghislaine Maxwell at Royal Lodge for Beatrice's 18th birthday party, 2 months after an arrest warrant was issued for his arrest over sexual offences against a minor. For her 18th birthday, Andrew says he knew nothing of the arrest warrant, but that's the location where that took place. And we know that they had a long friendship with Weinstein and Epstein. Now, even if they move out of Royal Lodge, I find it absolutely absurd that somehow the British public is supposed to accept, oh, well, as long as he's got a smaller house, I guess everything is forgiven, all is fine. It just doesn't add up to me at all.
I think that's the problem, isn't it? So what do you do with him? What does the king? What is he supposed to do to make us obviously feel like
I think he has to be completely removed.
I think it's really disappointing. There are a number of ways in which Prince Andrew, who, well, we must stress, has always vehemently denied the allegations against him posed by Virginia Giuffre. I think that it's so disappointing that there's been so many points along the road where he could have maybe, if not fully redeemed himself in our eyes, at least sort of like shown that he felt a bit sort of like responsible, a bit remorseful about his relationship rather than lying about cutting contact with Jeffrey Epstein. He could have been doing charity initiatives that he told us that he would in this, like, you know, in the goal of rehabilitating his image with the public.
Having compassion for victims.
He could have spoken to the US authorities about what he knows about all Epstein's crimes, and none of that has been forthcoming. And I think until we see any visible sign of contrition from this man, this problem is not going to go away for the royal family.
No, absolutely. But there were whispers or rumours that certainly the king was going to have a face-to-face sort of confrontation. I think this was last week.
Well, it's interesting, isn't it? Because I think, you know, we've always wondered, would it be King Charles saying, listen, Andrew, sling your hook out of Royal Lodge, or would he send staff to do that? And then there was many of the media last week thought there was actually going to be this face-to-face conversation, this confrontation. And here's Emily Maitlis giving more details about it on LBC.
And what we understand was going to happen was that Prince Charles was going to come via Royal Lodge on the way back from his trip with the Pope and was going to possibly read Andrew the Riot Act. Then I think the palace got nervous. They suddenly started seeing the size of the sort of media spread, the response, the chopper overhead, and they went, hang on a sec, this is all going to sound kind of way overblown. We're pulling it.
It's very interesting intel, isn't it? I'm guessing they are constantly thinking of the optics of all of this, and it's not good at the minute, we know that. But I guess by doing something really quite drastic, it's almost like an admission of guilt, in spite of the fact that, of course, Prince Andrew has vehemently always denied it. It's tricky. It's a tricky landscape, definitely, for the royal family to navigate.
Definitely, but I would argue that it shouldn't be difficult, and they haven't prioritised optics, because if you were to truly think about how this looks, honestly, to the British public, he should have got rid of Andrew a long, long time ago. And I understand there's certain protocols that are in place that means it's not so simple to do that. But don't have him around for family dinner. Do not regard him anymore as a member of this family. I'm sorry, if somebody maintains a relationship with a known convicted paedophile, which is, you know, that's not something that he denies.
And almost laughably, it's not the only problematic issue when it comes to Andrew. There's, you know, the entanglements with an alleged Chinese spy. There's lots of criticisms about his using his trader invoice status for personal commercial gain. There's always been a lot of roads that lead to trouble when it comes to Randy Andy. It's a nightmare.
It's very
difficult. But like I say, I think that Charles has missed an opportunity here to redefine what the royal family are for the British public. And I'm afraid that ship has sailed, because they've seen how they've dealt with Andrew, or rather, how they haven't dealt with him.
And then, obviously, it takes the spotlight off the good work that they are doing in the moment.
It really is a gift for anti-monarchists at the moment, sadly, because I believe in the soft diplomacy power of the royal family. I think they do a lot of brilliant things to raise awareness of brilliant campaigns to help smooth ways for governments. I think there's a lot of good about the royal family, but I can't really disagree with anything that Nicola said this morning.
Well, spokespeople for the palace last week even said, you know, sorry, can we keep our attention on Charles rather than Andrew? They're so desperately trying to refocus the public's attention. And I understand why, because of the important things, yes, that Charles is doing, but I'm afraid you can't have it both ways. You have to sort of deal with the Andrew problem, as it's been dubbed. But the King was in Staffordshire yesterday, attending the UK's first national memorial for LGBT members of the armed forces. He met veterans who spoke about the trauma that was inflicted upon them as recently as the year 2000 because they faced what was known as a gay ban. Thousands of people were investigated or forced to leave their careers because of their sexual orientation.
It's incredible that that has happened in our lifetime.
In our lifetime, precisely. And, of course, that is what people should be talking about and should be thinking about. But whilst Andrew's still around, it's just not going to be the case.
Exactly. It's just going to overshadow, sadly, isn't it?
Prince Andrew is back on the front pages again this morning, following fresh allegations after the release of Virginia Giuffre's memoir today. Pressure is mounting on the royal family to find out what the palace knew and whether the stripping of his titles should actually be taken even further. Well, royal editor Russell Myers joins me now, and you're on your way to the Vatican, aren't you, with the King and the Queen, and they're going there. But, of course, this is still overshadowing that, I'd have to say. So just fill us in, really, on what pressure, really, there is on the royal family to be doing more around Prince Andrew.
Well, morning, Granville. You're totally right. I mean, it's the fourth day of front-page headlines today, and more uncomfortable reading for the royal family and for Prince Andrew. And we saw the King yesterday at the Manchester Synagogue, the location of the recent terror attack. But Buckingham Palace said he wanted to concentrate very much on the victims of that heinous attack rather than this scandal taking place. But certainly the King and Prince William are facing an uphill battle because these headlines keep coming. So what can be done? Certainly Parliament being called, the Prime Minister and other ministers for action to strip Prince Andrew of his titles. Now, of course, he has stood back from them. He has relinquished them. But is he suffering enough, I think, in terms of the public mood? What we've seen Prince Andrew out and about yesterday, and Princess Beatrice visiting him at his Royal Lodge home, which incidentally, part of some new headlines today, that he hasn't paid any rent on it for the last 20 years as part of his agreement to pay a peppercorn rent and be responsible for the upkeep. So I think as long as these headlines keep continuing, then it's a big issue for the royal family. And
of course, as we might have expected, Andrew is mentioned heavily in Virginia's pretty hefty book, actually.
Well, indeed, 88 times over the course of 400 pages. It's released today, Nobody's Girl, worldwide. And we've got issues such as Prince Andrew being involved in sex exploits with Jeffrey Epstein. There are allegations that Andrew's team hired a team of internet trolls to besmirch her, to smear her character, as there were more allegations of his relationship with Epstein and Virginia Giuffre coming forward. And I think, you know, as long as there is this sort of drip of information, it makes it very, very difficult for Andrew and the royal family to take it on. I think the royal family certainly wanted to draw a line under this episode after Andrew relinquished his titles on Friday. But unfortunately, several days later, we're seeing anything but.
Of course, he denies everything, doesn't he, legally speaking. All right, Russell, thank you so much. And I'm sure we'll catch up with you on your trip to the Vatican with the royal family too. Thank you.
Thanks, Sophie.
Well, the journalist and podcaster Emily Clarkson is here too, alongside broadcaster Nicola Thorpe. Good morning to both of you.
Good morning.
You've got the book there, Nicola, and I know you've been sort of trying to get through it and see what you make of it personally. But there is growing calls now, isn't there, for MPs to legally strip Andrew's title.
Yeah, that's right. Starmer facing calls to change the law to formally strip those titles. He voluntarily gave up those titles. I think voluntarily was doing a bit of heavy lifting there. Obviously, a lot of pressure from the palace for him to do that. Gave those up last week, but technically he will still hold on to them. I want to sort of say at the top of this that what is important here is what the victims have lost, not what Prince Andrew has lost, the victims involved in this entire Epstein case and scandal. Rachel Maskell, who's an independent MP for York, she said to Sky News that 88% of her constituents don't want the Duke to carry a title bearing the name of their city, obviously York. So there's a lot of public pressure to take that title from him. But again, it's talk of titles. Well, this could have happened 6 years ago, after the Newsnight interview. Could have happened after those photographs in Central Park. And yet the royal family, you know, the reporter there was saying that, is it time for the royal family just want to draw a line underneath this? They've had plenty of opportunities over the past 6 years to do that.
Yeah, and there may be more to come. And as you say, Andrew has mentioned 88 times in Virginia Giuffre's book, and you say what people have lost. I mean, she's lost her life.
An awful lot, yeah. And she claims, amongst many other things in this book, that Prince Andrew thought that having sex with her when she was a teenager was his birthright. And that really stuck with me. I think that is obviously something that Prince Andrew would deny.
He does strongly deny all of this. He strongly denies having even met her.
But he also paid, allegedly, £12 million to settle the case against Virginia, who is no longer with us. She took her life, sadly, 6 months after writing this book. Yeah,
well, there's clearly much more to come on this, and on whether the royal family want to keep trying to draw a line under it. I'm not sure how that's going to work, because I feel like there's probably more to come. More emails, more revelations, one wonders. Prince Andrew on all the front pages again this morning after Friday night's statement confirming he is giving up his, or has already given up his royal titles after a discussion with the King. Well, our royal editor, Russell Myers, has all the inside track on this. There is no end, is there?
No, there is certainly not. I mean, our headline today said it perfectly, that this is a scandal with no end. And I think that when you look at the allegations that have come out over the last few days, certainly the meeting that King Charles summoned his brother to, demanding an explanation of this latest raft of allegations, and Andrew not being able to give him any guarantees of to what would come out. And of course, this has come to the forefront of the agenda once more, because his accuser, Virginia Giuffre, has released this posthumous book that everybody's poring over at the moment. And while Andrew has always vehemently denied the allegations in front of him, the latest development is that a Met Police investigation is taking place, a probe launched into further claims that he was trying to besmirch Virginia Giuffre's character, passing on private details such as her social security number to his private protection officers. So where on earth does this end? And I think that certainly Buckingham Palace will think that, you know, this is the beginning of the end, but I don't think it is.
Goodness, right, you're back, aren't you? There's so much to unpick here, and so many more questions. There's always more questions than answers in this, but I think we are getting to the answers now, aren't we, in this? You're going to stay with us. You've got plenty more to talk about. Now, we're continuing to talk about Prince Andrew this morning as King Charles was pictured looking pensive on his way to church yesterday. Our royal editor, Russell Myers, is back with us. And there are more allegations today because Virginia Giuffre's book comes out a bit early. I've seen it sort of serialised in a couple of the papers over the weekend, so I was reading a bit about it. But obviously, the full book is now on the shelves.
Yes, it is. I mean, it's out tomorrow, but like what happened to Prince Harry's Spare, it ends up in certain bookshops just ahead of time. So a couple of the newspapers have got hold of it. And it's pretty distressing reading. I mean, not only for, imagine for Virginia Giuffre, who had to go through and write it, and of course, go through those awful experiences that she details, but also for the royal family to go through this again, because they might certainly wanted to draw a line under this. If we look back at what had happened over the weekend, Friday night, Buckingham Palace put a statement out from Prince Andrew himself saying that he was going to relinquish his titles. He saw this as a further distraction from the royal family's work.
Is this because of the book?
Well, there's been a few allegations, not only from the book, but Andrew's been involved in a spy scandal as well. There's 2 spy scandals over the last few months. And so one may wonder how much more is to come out. I mean, this is he's fighting so many fires at the moment. But what happened last week was the King summoned him in a phone call, asked him, you know, what else is to come out here? What guarantees can you give? And, of course, he couldn't give any. So that led to the situation of him relinquishing these titles. But the allegations that we've seen detailed over the last couple of days are frankly quite distressing. That in the memoir Nobody's Girl, Virginia Giuffre said that she believes she would die at the hands of Epstein, being trafficked around the world. She obviously repeats the allegations that she was forced to have sex with Prince Andrew on multiple occasions. And on one of those occasions, she says, she was forced to have sex not only with Andrew, but Epstein and a group of girls who she said all appeared to be under the age of 18. Now, of course, Prince Andrew has vehemently denied these allegations at the centre of this book and the allegations that have been put in front of him. But, you know, it just goes further and further into the murky darkness, I think, for Prince Andrew.
Yeah, and on the front of the Daily Mail today, it's reporting that the King threatened to shame Andrew.
Well, the issue here is, and I think the royal family have been criticised quite openly because, you know, how long does this need to go on before they took action with Prince Andrew? The fact that the late Queen made him step back from his public role after the Newsnight interview, but he was still enjoying the privileges of being a prince, being a duke. He was a Knight of the Garter, and in fact, he signed off his emails with KG. And so how long did this need to go on? So the king said to him, if this doesn't stop, you know, we will forcibly take your titles away from you. However, that would require Parliament getting involved. And it's a very lengthy process. So I think the king wanted or didn't want Parliament to have this business at their door. And yet the argument is that Prince Andrew still has these titles even though he relinquished them. So, you know, what has he lost, really? Has he lost his privileges? Is it just in abeyance, as Buckingham Palace said? So I think there is a due criticism from other people, from the palace's point of view.
And if all of that wasn't enough, reports too that Andrew asked the Met Police to dig up dirt on Virginia. Now, this is a woman, he said, he doesn't remember meeting. Yes,
indeed. And not only didn't remember meeting, but then paid her £12 million to stop a civil trial taking place in the United States, which, incidentally, Virginia says in her book that she was forced to sign a gag order because it was the late Queen's Platinum Jubilee at that time. Now, the latest development is that the Met Police are now probing these claims made in emails unearthed by the Mail on Sunday, suggesting that Prince Andrew asked his private security officer to, or passed details to his private security officer of Virginia's social security number. Now, how on earth did he get that? We know that he was speaking to Ghislaine Maxwell, who's currently serving a 20-year prison sentence, but it also gives you an indication of the level of relationship that he had with Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell at the time. So, you know, will Prince Andrew be brought in for questioning? Will other people connected to the palace, such as his press spokesman, be brought in, who was also CC'd into that email? So I think this begs more questions than it answers.
And more to come, presumably.
Oh, without a doubt. I mean, the palace would have wanted to sort of move along from this now, but I think that this... what we've been saying for so many years, that all these questions keep on being raised. There's more and more details come out, more emails connected to Andrew. I mean, he's already been proved to have lied in that BBC Newsnight interview after saying he cut contact with Jeffrey Epstein. And, of course, that's been proved to not be true.
And, you know, William taking a tougher stance on his uncle has been something that has been a sort of quiet theme, I think, you know, where he stands as they come out of, you know, into the public. You know, where is Andrew? He's sort of pushed to the back a little bit. And often it's thought, right, that must be William. You've got a sort of sense of that, have you?
Yeah, I think so, because when you look at William's attitude to his uncle, he certainly believes he's toxic. He shouldn't have any role within the royal family. I think things will be very, very different when he becomes king. We saw William's attitude plainly to see at the Duchess of Kent's funeral. Andrew tried to sort of snuggle up to him and talk to him. And William...
And indeed, Sarah Ferguson was trying to chat them, and they were sort of not having much of it.
And it didn't want to have anything to do with him. Now, you know, William, of course, is being prepared for his next role alongside the king. He was consulted by the king for this latest action with Andrew. But William has a very, very different way of doing things. I think he prefers a much more open and transparent view of how the royal family should operate. And whilst the King may and the late Queen may have had some sympathies with Andrew.
Yes.
William certainly doesn't. And now, you know, where does it go for Andrew now? Because he has always denied these allegations, it must be said, in front of him. We haven't seen any further comment from Buckingham Palace, but unfortunately, with days and days of headlines like this, I don't see it going anywhere.
And what they certainly don't want is all of this to overshadow the King and Queen going to the Vatican to meet the Pope, to pray together.
Yes,
is that right?
yes,
For
I'm
the
off there.
first time in how many?
I'm off there tomorrow.
Oh, you're off with them?
First time since the Reformation that
Hundreds of years,
the
it's a
monarch
remarkable
will be
moment.
praying with the Pope. So obviously a big, big historic moment for the King coming up this week.
Why are they choosing to do it? What's the...
Well, of course, the last Pope passed away last time the King was in the Vatican, so it's a great opportunity for him as head of the Church of England to meet with the Holy Father.
Historic moment,
Yes,
and they don't want that overshadowing at the end of the week, do they? Really good to talk to you. So much information there. Thank you so much. And that's a wrap for this video. We hope you enjoyed it. We have all the best moments from the show right here on the channel, and if you like this video, then we think you'll love this one. See you next time.